Question is this bill be now read a second time, and I call the member for Barton.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, can I begin by saying that Labor will be moving some second reading amendments to this motion, drafted and I understand distributed in my name, and I'll submit these amendments to the desk once we are able to do that. Mr Speaker, this was the legislation, believe it or not, that Angus Taylor actually gave a speech for some weeks ago. Yes, that's right. So I just wanted to point that out. The amendments are really important, and I note that the Prime Minister and the Minister for Families and Social Services have just, I think, completed a press conference in the Prime Minister's courtyard, talking about the fact that the payment for this coronavirus supplement for job seeker will be reduced to $150 as at the end of December, and remain at that till the end of the prescribed time at this stage for JobKeeper, which of course is in March. Labor is moving amendments in the Senate today that talks very much, Mr Speaker, about the job seeker coronavirus supplement, which we are arguing should remain at $250, at least $250 at least until the end of the JobKeeper payment. We're also arguing, and it's another missed opportunity by the government, to announce the long-anticipated and anxiously waited announcement about a permanent increase to job seeker. Now, the Business Council of Australia, through to ACOS and everyone in between on that spectrum, have agreed that job seeker needs a permanent increase, and Labor has consistently called on that for a very long period of time. So I just wanted to put those things on the record, Mr Speaker, this morning, in terms of what Labor will be moving. Those things have been moved in this House and were defeated by the government, but we're moving them again in the Senate today. They are modest requests, and they are inevitable requests that the government is going to have to grapple with, and that's why I find it so baffling as to why the government wouldn't grapple with those things today. However, they are clearly not going to, and the clear intention is to further reduce the coronavirus supplement to job seeker from the current $250 to $150, and Labor's argument is that this is going to create two tiers of issues that I'd like to outline to you, through you, Mr Speaker, to the House. The first thing it's going to do is make it incredibly difficult for the people who are currently on job seeker. And we know that that cohort of people is going to increase by, according to the government, about 300,000 before Christmas. So it won't be $1.6 million on job seeker. It'll actually be something around the order of 1.8 million people. And the other thing, of course, is that we know that a very small amount of money for people on job seeker pushes those people into poverty, but also makes it incredibly difficult for those people to be able to participate in the jobs market and participate in seeking employment, which is, of course, what we all want to see on both sides of the House. But the second reason, Mr Speaker, is an economic imperative. And the economic imperative is this, is that we know that people who are on job seeker and living on smaller amounts of money are more likely to spend all of the money that they are in receipt of in the economy. And at a time when we are in a very deep recession, at a time when the economy needs stimulus, it just seems incredulous to me that the amount of the stimulus package for job seeker would be reduced. And as I said, still no announcement about a permanent increase. So the amendments that I will be moving for second reading today will be what's been circulated, but it goes to the points that I've actually spoken about, including the fact that many pensioners, both age pensioners, people on a disability support pension and people on carer payments, have faced increased costs during the pandemic. The leader of the Labor Party made the point that prior to the pandemic, people didn't have to expend money on masks, didn't have to expend money on sanitisers, and for people, particularly those people on a disability support pension, it has been extremely difficult with additional costs as a result of the pandemic. The Minister has the power under the Social Security Act to extend the coronavirus supplement, but has chosen not to do that. And we are appealing to the better angels of the government to think about this action carefully. These requests and the amendments that Labor is moving are modest. They have been thought through very, very carefully, and we are simply saying keep the $250 extension in line with the JobKeeper payments, which is until the end of March, and also better support pensioners, including age pension, disability support pension and carer payment recipients facing increased costs in protecting their health because of the coronavirus pandemic. And as I said, Mr Speaker, announcing a permanent increase to job seeker. I'd like to also say that in terms of this Omnibus bill, the purpose of this bill is to introduce a number of technical and administrative amendments that go to compliance and sharing of information. One of the measures in this bill is to put beyond doubt about that it is an offence to Services Australia generally, not just a particular officer of the agency. This change is proposed in the context of online service delivery, where an officer might not actually be provided with information. It also requires persons served with a formal notice of summons to a Royal Commission to produce documents or information to give evidence to comply with that requirement. It will require them even if the document or information is protected by secrecy provisions in the Social Security and related law. This will ensure, Mr Speaker, that the Department of Social Services and related agencies will participate fully in the Disability Royal Commission and future Royal Commissions. That change will put the department in the same position as any other person served with the requirement by the Royal Commission under the Royal Commissions Act. My speech is quite brief. I just want to make that clear. This bill will also make a range of technical amendments to correct errors and anomalies and repeal obsolete provisions. While Labor supports these changes, all Australians will never forget the government's dismal record when it comes to social security. The government has previously sought to make it very, very painful for people who are in receipt of social security and make it difficult for those Australians to access income support in the hope that they just give up. When it comes to compliance, no Australian can or will trust this government. For 3 long and anxious years, the government pursued tens of thousands of Australians with false and inflated debts, what has now become known as the robo-debt scheme. I still remember the many anxious Australians who contacted my office seeking help and assistance during the early stages of this fiasco. Scott Morrison, the present Prime Minister, was a Minister for Social Services when the massive robo-debt system was launched in the 2015 to 16 budget. It was spruiked by the government as a more cost-effective and automatic way to cross-reference ATO payment summaries with the Centrelink data. If it had been removed with humans' checks and balances, which had previously existed to protect people from unfair debts. And I remember this very well because I was the Shadow Minister for Human Services at the time. Can I just say that this government deliberately designed a system that was wrong and unfair, and they applied it to hundreds of thousands of people who had access to Centrelink payment all the way back to 2010. This included expanding the system for vulnerable groups and drawing in people who were very likely to have uneven earnings, which averaging was totally unsuitable, like students. It counted on people's fears and anxieties in the hope that these false or inflated debts would not be challenged. They would just give up into the government out of fear and further legal cost. This particular government has had a track record of demonising Australians who have lost work and had hours slashed. It has insulted millions of Australians, doing it in very hard circumstances by implying that they choose not to work. It has sought to find new ways to demonise and humiliate Australians doing it tough. It has sought to force older Australians who have lost their jobs, people like our parents and grandparents, to take humiliating drug tests and urine tests as a condition of receiving social security. It has sought to force Australians onto the cash debit card, preventing them from purchasing basics and essential at affordable prices. The Social Services Minister has previously said that Australians receiving New Start or Job Speaker spend their money on drugs and alcohol. In closing, Mr Deputy Speaker, I want to take a brief moment to note in this place a number of developments we've learned through Senate estimates yesterday in relation to our social security system. We learned, last week I should say, we learned that a number of people on unemployment payments will surge to 1.8 million by December. This is an increase of 300,000 people who were from previous projections, an additional 300,000 people. In 4 years' time, that figure is expected to remain at almost 1 million. With so many Australians on unemployment support and more expected to lose their jobs, it's perplexing how the government plans to end the Corona supplement on December 31. Well, they've now announced, of course, as I referred to earlier, that it will be continued at a lower rate till the end of March. For all of this demonisation of social security recipients, the government forgets that they spend at local and small business. It means local and small business have more to spend on wages and jobs, and yet when the Social Services Minister was asked by Senate estimates how many jobs will be lost when the government ends the Corona supplement, she did not know, and I suspect she still doesn't know. I want to reiterate from this side of the House that our call for the government is to provide certainty for Australians on unemployment support, but also local businesses by delivering a permanent increase to Job Start. Can I finish my comments, Mr Deputy Speaker, by moving the amendments circulated in my name, which I will hand to the person in the chair who will second the amendments.